Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today at the Charge Virtual Conference on EV engineering. The topic of this session is reduce EV battery transport costs by 15% while exceeding DG compliance standards, and it's brought to you by DGeo. There will be a Q&A session after the presentation, so please submit your questions at any time by clicking the Q&A button that you'll see on your screen, and a recorded video of the session will also be available to view on demand, and you can visit this session's registration page on our site for more details post-event. So our speaker today is Mike Cicalo, Director of EV Battery Strategy at DGeo. Welcome, Mike, and over to you.
All right, thanks, Chloe. Appreciate the introduction. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all the folks on the phone. I appreciate the time that we'll be able to take here to spend a little bit of time talking about reducing EV battery transport costs by up to 15% while exceeding DJ compliance standards. But before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I've spent about 25 years, a little bit over 25 years in the automotive industry, working for an auto manufacturer in the after sales division as well, in global purchasing, supply chain, logistics, packaging, and containerization. So I bounced around quite a bit, learned the business, and have a great understanding of what really goes on when it comes to EV packaging, transport, as well as the supply chain that it works through there, through the operations and through the warehousing and logistics of that. Uh, as I went through my career there, I spent a lot of time in and out of DG. Spent a considerable amount of my career there. We had one facility that we shipped service parts out of quite regularly, and that's where I got to know Label Master and DGO through that process. As I went through this, my team actually did the build and design of EV battery crates, and working with our partners here at DGO at the time. We're going through that process, really understood what was really going on. And that's where I'm here on the other side of this, trying to help folks like you out there, auto manufacturers, distributors, and suppliers do the things, ship things safely and compliantly and more efficiently and cost effectively. So when I say I've been in your shoes, I really mean I've been in your shoes. It's one of those things that I truly believe that it's almost like giving back, but at the same time, it's truly understanding what you guys have gone through, where you're going. And that's really what I try to do is I go through a strategy and solution to help you guys drive there to get to that point. So we're here because we probably share some of the same problems and looking for some of the same solutions as we go through the process. As we go through that, next slide here is four forces are colliding in the EV manufacturing realm. Really, you have growth, and we also see some contraction here, but you also in that growth, you see the merging of companies. So there's some unique things there. With that growth, we're starting to see chemistries change, battery chemistries change. So what does that mean from a warehousing standpoint? Can we mix these in warehouses, etc.? From a regulatory standpoint, I'm sure we're all in the same boat. I got a great regulatory team behind me on this side here in Label Master and DGO, and we really spend a lot of time staying ahead and talking to the DOT experts for 49 CFR, IATA, IMDG. We really spend that time to understand regulations to make sure we can communicate with our customer base and our clients. So they're always ahead of everything coming at them. The other thing that's coming at us right now is we're seeing rising costs, and that a lot of that has to do with tariffs, but then it's also inflationary. We're seeing economics really change throughout the globe as we talk through some of these things. So really, it's how do we temper down our transportation and our warehousing costs and distribution costs of our EV products and other DG parts through our network. So it's pretty imperative that we have to go through that. And then more importantly, what we're seeing here in the US especially is the changing tax rebates and incentives are coming to an end on September 30th. So everybody's waiting with bated breath to see what that truly means for the sector. And if there's an uptick in sales here for the last month of September, so we'll see that. And then if those things weren't enough, you get into the fact that there's 10 plus different DG parts on a vehicle, an EV vehicle, even. You have airbags, seatbelt pretensioners, paint, shocks and struts, you name it. Then, of course, the EV battery. So there's a lot that goes there. So when we see compliance failures, immediate risks include regulatory fines, shutdowns, long-term impact, and can also include damages to brand reputation. And we don't want that, because we know what that means to you and your customers, as well as your business. And profitability is a key to that success. So here at DGO, I really think there's three pillars to our EV battery excellence and what we can do to solution and help drive costs down for customers. You have fire mitigation technologies, next generation packaging that we have to offer, as well as our end-to-end solutions. And when it comes to the fire mitigation technology, really, we got a game changer, I think. And I think if you really want to dig into this more, you can check our website, reach out to me. But we talk about our AquaGreen series of containers. These containers actually help mitigate fires in a container, as well as filter the off gas as it goes through that process. So that's one unique thing that we have. But then I'm also working with a rather large partner in the sensor business, and we're actually got an off gas sensor that we're working through pilots right now with some of our clients to truly understand how it could work in their environments in a transportation as well as a storage or warehousing situation. Those give audible alerts or visual alerts through like a flashing light, and can even go a step further and give you communication to a dispatch office or supervisor on the floor saying, hey, there's something going on in this container. So there's some pretty unique stuff we have out there. Then couple that with our robust creating and container solutions on top of that, we can really help out and help drive some costs out of your network when it comes to that. And then there's the next gen packaging. This is really our off the shelf type of material. And what's unique about this is I have people call me all the time, say, Mike, I have an issue. I have got to get this EV battery out of my facility. I don't have a DDR crate. I don't have a damaged defective recall crate. Can you help me? I need it quick. I don't need something that's going to turn multiple times. I just need to get this thing moving and move to the next destination, to the recycler or the refurbishment center. And as we go through that process, we're really starting to see the uptick in some of those things taking off as we go through this process, as we bring more recyclers and more refurbishment centers on board that truly just need help to get things from point A to point B. But then when it comes down to really looking at cost savings, I think where we're best positioned to really truly help in that situation is the warehousing or the end-to-end solutions. And when I say end-to-end solutions, I mean we can bring material inbound from your manufacturing facility into ours. We can do then crating or packaging at our facility, then warehouse inventory management, as well as the shipping or the picking and shipping, and then the distribution or the logistics outbound to your customers, and then also return logistics to get those where they need to be if they need to come back to your facility for testing, just to understand what truly went on with that battery, why the cell failed, what's going on with the chemistry of that battery, what caused the the issue that you had to replace the battery for, your customer had to replace a battery for it. So there's some unique things there. But then one more thing that's really unique to us here at DGO is our portal tool. What it does is it allows us to integrate within a customer's WMS system or ERP system and pull and basically intake customer orders into our portal. And then we are able to ship parts to the customers as needed. We have inventory management through that. It also allows for customers to see what's truly going on in that fashion. So those are just some of the three pillars, or those are the three pillars that really are our guiding light here to help drive some cost out of your network. I'm going to move on to a few case studies. The first one I'm going to talk about is actually a story that really hit home. It was several years ago. I was actually in Fort Wayne, Indiana, of all things, sitting in the evening with my two sons, who I coached in basketball for AAU program, and we were getting ready to play a game the next day in a tournament. I get a phone call about 10 o'clock at night from my leadership saying, Mike, we need you on a phone call tomorrow at 9:30. We have a big issue and we need help from the packaging and the containerization world, because we have a lot of, we have a potential recall on our hands and we need to work through some stuff. So as we went through that, that's kind of how my weekend started and how that all went through. With the relationship that I had with DGO and Label Master at the time, I knew that I didn't know what I didn't know. So I brought in of damage recall really drives what's going to happen and how you're going to respond. So really, when it goes through that process, The results were tremendous for us because we went through what should have taken us probably 6 to 8 months to develop a battery crate to do it the right way and without putting all the emphasis on it and the extra resources on it. But we actually were able to concatenate that down to 6 weeks in time from cradle or from the actual initial start to the finish and creation of that crate to get those parts out to the customers. That's about a 70% reduction in time, but we weren't going to be able to do that without our customer, without those guys making sure that they were aligned with us, making sure that they had their SMEs right with us, sitting in the room as we designed and developed those containers and then tested and then retested. And you have to go through all that to make sure you meet regulation and compliance for shipping DER. So it was a tumultuous process, but it was very good, and you learned a lot about each other as you work through that process because you have to make sure that you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's, but then you're also trying to move at a very quick pace to make sure that you can get customers up and running because you don't want a person missing school or a medical appointment or something of that nature can't make it to work because their car won't run because of a bad battery. So our proactive approach there and compliance helped this OEM mitigate a massive risk while also meeting all the regulatory requirements. It was truly a proof point to show us how competitive we can be or how competitive they can be in the market and set the tone for what others would have to face as things happen in their networks as well. So my best advice through that whole process and what I learned through this is that our partnerships are really our guiding light and advanced planning truly matters. It's better to be proactive than reactive. When you're proactive, you can really set the table and make sure you have all your bases covered. And then it's just building up and amping up for production versus having to do the design phase and everything else that comes with that. So make sure you have the right partner in place. Make sure you have the right plans in place to avoid reactionary responses that could really, truly cost you a lot more. So the cost savings in this one wasn't tremendous from that standpoint, but it was the intangible savings that we have to account for, and that the OEM accounts for because of the time they were able to reduce through that implementation. Moving on to the next slide. Here's a big one. This is another case study that we had, and we were actually working on direct to dealer shipments of EV batteries. I just came into the organization and I started looking at transportation data with our logistics staff and really trying to figure out what's going on. Why are we paying so much, or why is this customer paying so much in transportation? What can we do differently? How can we improve it to drive costs down for them? So the manufacturer had their team working on it as well, looking at it, but they were also asking us for, hey, what suggestions do we have? So we went through and did a pilot, or did an analysis, and then we came up with a pilot that we wanted to run by the OEM, explaining to them that we were going to do something with a multi-stop approach to really reduce costs. They were actually excited to hear what had happened or what we were talking about, and they said, let's try it. I said, okay, let's do it. Let's set up a pilot, and we'll move forward with a pilot on a couple high volume lanes to make sure we don't impact customers. Let's check what the service level agreement is. How many days do we have to get this material to the customer, and make sure we don't miss anything as we go through that process. Well, the pilot went through very successfully. The data proved out that the savings was there. Customers were very happy. The OEM was very happy because they started to see the benefit of it. And then we actually phased in over the next several months the rest of the network for the distribution of the batteries and their DG at that point. So in 1 year, that customer was actually able to save over $1 million in transportation with just a few minor changes to their network and no impact to their customers, but other than making sure that it still met the same service level agreement and the number of days that they promised. So let's just keep in mind that we didn't stop there. We don't stop there. We've also got several other objectives and opportunities on the table for our customers, and presented those to them and waiting for some feedback to see what other things we can do. Because we're trying to be as creative as possible, but also keeping their network in mind and keeping their customers in mind, that we don't jeopardize and push out delivery dates for them. And the next case study that I was going to share is something that could have some intangible benefits as well as tangible benefits when it comes to savings. But it's our program management office. What it does is it enables us to scale with confidence. If you have problems in your day-to-day DG product support, and this isn't just EV, we could be talking about any DG parts out there. I know several companies that EV is just one segment of what they ship in DG every day. So we can support cradle to grave, all those parts, everything in between EV and everything else in between that. But then those guys, the project management team also can help with technical logistics as well as networking efficiencies, as well as uh, be a single point of contact for the group. What we found in working with several of our customers is that when you get into DG, not everybody has the same level of expertise. And when you don't have the same level of expertise, it truly comes down to who you partner with or how fast can you get your team trained to get them the expertise that they need in order to support. And I commend a lot of organizations when they say, hey, we're ramping up, we're going to add people, we want to add DG experts to our team because we need to be there, we need to get better at this. So we're there to help that along. But then there's also some companies that say, hey, we know what we don't know, or we don't know what we don't know, and we really need your help in the DG space. So that's where our program management team can come in and help connect the dots, and then also ensure meetings go off without a hitch, and all the siloed areas in an organization can be silenced and brought together into one meeting so you can truly make sure projects are working in the right direction or walking them down the right path to ensure that they meet the expectations and meet the compliance standards that are necessary. So there's a lot of things that can happen out there, but with this OEM that we've done this with, or with the couple OEMs we've done this with now, um, they've really entrusted us to do this. And as we went through this and showed them um, our methodology and how we made things work, they went from just not only just a North American distribution model to a whole true global or international distribution model for them. So projects that barely made the finish line now are actually moving along quite efficiently, and it's easy to scale for these OEMs. So those are some things that our team's able to do as they walk through that process. Another one, and this is kind of this is where I think is the most important from our organization standpoint. We can do a lot with the day-to-day operations, but when it comes down to true success, it's our software. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but 79% of supply chain executives say they rank lack of visibility to their network one of their biggest headaches. And I don't want this to happen to your boss, and I hope your boss isn't one of them. But really, what has to happen here is when we come in, we set up our software. We have two different options. We have two different trains of thought and two different things we can do. We have the DGES software, where we can go in and help you shipping material in and out of your facility through that process and through that tool to help drive out cost and waste out of your system. Then we also have, if we go next level to like an end-to-end solution, we also offer our portal solution where we can actually integrate into your operation or into your system, take your customer data, as I stated earlier. So we have that customer intake. Then we also process and package the material or the batteries or the parts in our warehouse. We warehouse those parts, keep an inventory of what's in that warehouse. And then we also handle the picking and shipping of that, making sure that all shipments meet DG compliant or are compliant to DG regulation. So you have the proper packaging, proper labels, proper markings, and a proper documentation as you go through that process. It's imperative that you have somebody or you guys are an organization that understands that to make sure that you don't have any issues, because we all know that at the end of the day, fines are real, impacts to our bottom line and customer dissatisfaction truly drive where money is spent in our economy, as well as how satisfied your customers are to create repeat customers as you go through that process. So it's key that you have the right partner in place. And with some of our with our solution, our portal, we also offer a single sign-on solution that actually really truly integrates the dealer customers, the customers, operations, as well as leadership to truly see what's going on in that network with a dashboard for reporting so they know exactly what's on time or what's not on time as we go through that process. It's imperative that you have these tools in place or you fall behind in your leadership is sit there wringing their hands trying to figure out what's next or how do we fix this or where do we get more information, because manual tracking is just not the way, especially in DG. So as we've talked about this, the real numbers from real DGO customers, I think you guys can read the slide. It kind of speaks for itself. The bottom line is not only do we ensure DG compliance throughout DG supply chains, but we also pride ourselves in offering innovative solutions that help ensure safety, cost savings, and DG compliance, as well as faster deployments. We know the impacts of failure, of slowing things down, or not getting parts out to customers cost in a cost effective and tenacious manner. It's imperative that we do these things together. We've got a 99.9% safety track record. We've saved over $20 million for our customers to date, as well as we've had no regulatory violations. And I'm going to attribute that to our consulting and our regulatory team. I just give those guys a lot of kudos when it comes to it, because instead of us going in thinking we know everything or interpreting something that in a 49 CFR or IATA or IMDG manual, we truly go back to those tables where we are interacting with their leadership and the DOT, et cetera, to make sure we know what's going on. So when we go in with a new customer, we reach out to make sure that we're meeting all the standards, making sure we're dotting all of our I's and crossing all of our T's as we go through that process. So lots of kudos to those regulatory teams for us, making sure that all of our customers can meet that. And then, as I stated before, while not optimal, we can do things about 70% faster, just depending on situation. And as I stated before, it's better to be proactive than reactive. So there's some things we can do. Please talk to me after this, and I can share with you a couple of things you can do to be more proactive in this network and this structure to avoid some kind of catastrophe at the end of something if a recall happens or you have some other DG issue that you need to work through. So with that, I'm going to leave you with this. Why not turn compliance into a competitive advantage? We've seen and solved all kinds of DG problems for EV manufacturers, as well as distributors and suppliers and their customers. We navigate the complex DG environment. That's what we're here for. That's what we do. That's what we pride ourselves on. We truly believe, and I honestly can say this, we work with the regulatory experts to truly understand that and take guidance from them, as well as help sit on committees to make sure that your voices are being heard. And so we truly know what's going on in the network to drive additional compliance standards or safety standards to improve situations for everybody across the board when it comes to shipping dangerous goods. We also offer hazmat training for all of our customers. We can do that on an online format, or we can do in-person training. But then one step further is our staff, everybody on our staff is going through DG training ourselves. So we actually live and breathe this stuff. It's not just us making it up, making people feel good about it, or trying to figure out what's next. We truly want to be there for you guys and make sure that our team truly embodies what that is as they go through that process. And then we also liaison with the DOT and regulatory bodies. And then we also offer a customer service support line, 800 number, as well as consulting services that are tailored to your needs. So as I close here, let's discuss your challenges and tell me what you know or what you don't know and how we may be able to help you. I think there's a lot there for us as we go through that process. Thanks for your time, and we'll go to questions and answers.
Yes, thank you so much, Mike. It was a really fantastic presentation there. Yeah, if you want to open your Q&A box now, Mike, there's some questions coming in. If you haven't sent your questions in yet, you've got a few minutes to do so. So please use your Q&A button now. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. All right, I see some stuff coming through the system here right now. So the first question I'm going to answer is, what are key challenges and best practices for managing a recall? When it comes to recalls, each situation can be unique. It comes down to volumes, and it comes down to how fast you have to get to market, how fast you have to get the product out to the customers, and how you're working with the government regulators that are pushing through this recall notice. So really what we do is, for the challenges, we navigate complex regulatory requirements. Then you have to coordinate across your whole network. It's not just your dealers, it's not just your customers, it's your entire network. You have to make sure you truly understand. And this is a challenge because not everybody has the same understanding or the same background, and sometimes the same training when it comes to that. Um, ensuring to avoid other compliance issues that could damage your brand or your safety standards. We don't want anybody getting hurt as you go through this. So really making sure that everybody's up to speed, trained properly, and ensure that everybody goes home the same way they came into the office or in the operation that day as you go through this process. Some best practices that I would suggest as we walk through this to make sure we can get things rolling the right way in a recall situation and managing a recall is the rapid regulatory coordination is key. We make sure we engage with the proper DOT authorities, making sure that we know what's going on. Tell them, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is where we're going with this. Is this aligned with the regulation, the way you see it, the way you interpret it? Making sure we take all the guesswork out of that. And then another thing is innovative packaging designs. We have a great packaging team here on our side as well. It's a very unique situation because as you're going through this process, you may be designing multiple crates or containers in order to support your recall activity. And we can actually tailor those to specific sizes and shapes to make sure that each battery or each part, each DG part is properly packaged and can make it through the network as it goes through that process. Another thing I would say here is when it comes to best practices is making sure you have consistency, either in your North American network or wherever you're located, or maybe globally. Ensure that you have instructions for closure instructions, because it's not just building a container, making it able to ship to a customer. It's also going the next step of making sure that the customers know how to use and interact with the container or the crate. You don't want somebody assuming they know, because you have to have poly bags, you have to have um, uh, absorbent pads, stuff of that nature. They have to know how that works, and you have to be able to communicate that to them. And so, one thing I can say is through all of our activities that we've partaken in with our customers today, we actually have closure instructions for our recall packs in 5 different languages at this point. And then it's operational leadership, I think, is key as we work through that process. It's imperative that you have a dealer staff that is trained and readily able to handle these these batteries or these parts as they come in. Then you have to also be willing to audit the packaging on time, because as you go through this process, you're going to make a determination as hey, is it a one-time use container? Is it going to be a multiple? Is it going to be a container that we're going to put on a loop? How robust does it have to be? One, but then two, if there's any damage to the container or any part of that container, that has to be reviewed each time before you can put it back into the network. So repairs may need to be made, and make sure you have that. So you have to audit that packaging in real time and make sure you have professionals on the receiving end that truly understand what that means. Um, and then the last one I would say here is really the integration with the OEM is make sure that you have make sure that you can embed with the right people on the team. Make sure you have access to the subject matter experts of the teams you're working with and the company you're working with. You want to make sure you're getting the A team when you put this together, especially when you're trying to respond very quickly to work through that process. So I would say that's kind of what drives the ability to maneuver what should take a longer period of time and really concatenate that as we go through that process. All right. I'm going to move on here to another question. I think this is the last one I'll be able to take real quick as we go through this. We're running up on time, it looks like, but I do appreciate everybody's time here today. So the next question I have is, how can data-driven analysis optimize EV battery distribution networks to reduce waste and achieve cost savings? So I think data-driven analysis can can help transform a network and help transform distribution by identifying inefficiencies. So as I stated earlier, we really try to dig into the obvious first. So you look at you look at transportation data to recover redundant routes, underutilized equipment, or costly detours that you may have through that process. Or maybe you're not using the right equipment, or you don't have the right equipment available, and we have to make some ideas or make some decisions on how to make that switch. I'd also say in this realm right here, I would also say redesigning distribution and making sure that you have the customer's logistics team and their leadership on board with saying, "Hey, we got ways to save money. Here's the opportunities we found in the data. We took the last year's data of transportation moves, and if we would have done it in this fashion or we would have done it this way, we could have saved you X amount of dollars." And truly show them those numbers, and then work on a pilot that could work to implement with that. And leading into that pilot, it's really important, I think, that we make sure that we do pilot something. I don't want to just jump in. I don't want anybody to just jump in thinking they have all those solutions. So, and then finally phasing that out, or finally closing that out with a phased in approach to roll out to the rest of the network once you find that the pilot works. And if the pilot didn't work, you go back to the drawing board. So with that, I'll leave it back. I'll pitch it back to Chloe for closing
Thank
remarks.
you. Yes, thank you, Mike. Well, that was fantastic. Now, I was going to say, Mike, you've had a lot of questions come through. So although it is time, Mike and his team will get a copy of all the questions that you've sent. So if you've left your name and contact details with that question, they will be able to reach out to you post event. I've also shared a link to the deck, and this is also going to be available on the DGeo session registration page, the on-demand page. This whole session will be available to rewatch. So if you've got colleagues or friends you want to share with, there are plenty of time to register and for them to also go to the session page and sign up too. But otherwise, Mike, I'm going to hand back to you. Thank you so much for all the preparation, the support team that have helped also organise this session too, and a big thank you to the audience from us as well for attending.
For sure. Thank you. Thanks again for everybody joining us today. I appreciate it. You've seen my contact information on the screen. Please feel free to reach out, send me an email, make a phone call, or connect me via LinkedIn. Be happy to talk to you more. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Thanks, Mike. See you soon.